and welcome to The German Guy Reviews. I'm The German Guy. The Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy is an interesting phenomenon. Batman Begins is a movie that falls in line with other superhero films of previous times. A movie based on a character that most people know or at least are knowledgeable about enough to know the core concepts, but isn't exactly a comic book movie but a reimagining of this or that character. The trilogy existed in a very interesting time, when Marvel Studio came into being and began slowly building its film empire. All that DC had to offer was a finale to a saga that leaves you disappointed and with a sour taste in your mouth. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Nolan's Batman is interesting for this reason because I believe he is partially responsible for the radioactive dump that the DCU has become. When other superhero movies started not only to do stories that were not merely inspired, but exactly what you expect an adaptation to look like, building a vast interconnected universe for example, but also just good movies, the competition didn't even realize what was happening. DC came too late to the party. Marvel had already boldly tried a great experiment that could have just as easily be their downfall, but their bravery for trying something unique was rewarded and well deserved. The guys at Warner, on the other hand, tried to have the same success as Marvel, but without putting in any of the effort or knowledge or lore for the characters. Not to mention a plan. A good friend of mine predicted correctly from the first trailer what the big plot twist of the Justice League was going to be. In every new installment of their films, you can feel how much they are pandering to the audience, how soulless and uninspired it all is. Maybe the DCU will get better in time. Maybe it already is when I film, edit and upload this text years later from now. Maybe some far off day it will even surpass Marvel, but its beginning will be forever a stain that can never ever be erased. Personally, I think DC doesn't need to be like Marvel. Films like The Joker or The Dark Knight show me that maybe big great comic book universes are not their thing, and they need to focus more on individually perfect in and of themselves contained pieces, which would also create a nice contrast to the MCU and wouldn't have the "well, you are just copying it" vibe to it. And they do it badly. They want to be like Marvel, but at the same time they want to be recognized as the guys that made The Dark Knight and Watchmen, and be seen as the adult version of superheroes. So what you end up with is the Avengers, but with a black and white filter over it. Or just plain bullshit. I haven't been excited for any DC film since Batman v Superman, which is so frustrating because I think DC has the better characters than Marvel, and they could have easily surpassed them if they had any idea what they were doing. The main problem is simply they want to have the success of an Avengers or Infinite War movie, but not put in any of the effort and work. But that was the DCU overall. What are my thoughts on this movie, since this is what is in the title? Let me put it this way. In my mind, the Nolan Batman movies end with Batman driving away on his motorcycle to be forever remembered as a hero turned villain. It's the perfect ending that leaves you satisfied in regards to all the themes it was building up to. And when I heard all those years ago that there was going to be another movie, my first reaction was, why? The ending was perfect. But now there sadly is another one. And first when it came out, I liked it. I even went twice to see it in the theaters. But as the years passed and the more and more I thought about it, well, let us dig into it, and I'm going to explain why it's a bad movie that is bad. A quick summary of the previous film, in case you should be one of the 5 people on the planet who hasn't seen The Dark Knight. Joker terrorized Gotham in a long and complicated story, turning Harvey Dent, the symbol of righteousness and hope of the city, to madness, leading to him killing a bunch of people. So, in order to stop the city of losing hope, Batman took the blame for the murders and went into hiding. But we are not starting with Gotham right away, but with a group of mercenaries doing the movie cliché number Alpha-0203, busting out the main baddie out of imprisonment while he is being transferred. Which is really stupid when you think about it. If a bad guy is so bad that you need half an army to transfer him, then you might as well use the same resources to reinforce his current holding facility. They attack the plane in which their leader is sitting in, and it's none other than Bane.
No one cared who I was till I put on the mask.
You are about a decade too early, my friend. We are living in such Kafkaesque times. And might I just say, this is a weird choice for a main antagonist? I don't dislike Bane, but he was originally created just as someone to beat up Batman. And as far as villains go, he is not all that interesting. Sure, he is intelligent and strong, correctly shown in this film, something you can't say for previous attempts at portraying him. But I don't know, he is just such a average villain. He has in the comics a nice doping metaphor going on, but his existence feels too much. See, what comics like to do is create a bunch of characters that are one-to-one or almost like existing characters, so they can put on comic covers in big letters, brand new. Out now, the first appearance of... The Questioner! Every Batman villain, at least the main cast, is a dark reflection of one of Batman's personality traits. Two-Face has a twisted sense of justice, Edward Nygma all of Batman's intelligence but none of his empathy, Mr. Freeze has empathy but he uses it as a justification for his crimes.
Even if you have to kill everyone in the building to do it.
Think of it, Batman. To never again walk on a summer's day with a hot wind in your face and a warm hand to hold. Oh yes, I'd kill for that.
Scarecrow all of Batman's fears if there were a person, and then there is the Joker, leading the entire insane circus. Bane then would be Batman's strength, but none of his self-control. But we already have that. His name is Killer Croc and he was created 10 years before Bane. Anyway, the mercenary crew kidnaps the airplane in an admittedly very cool action scene. We cut to Gotham, where at Wayne Manor a gathering is held to remember Harvey Dent. Okay, weird. This movie takes place 8 years after the events of The Dark Knight. I could understand if they would do this after 5 or 10 years, but 8 is just such an odd number. Or did they create an annual Celebrate Dent Day? True, he helped bring down the entire mob, but you treat him like he's Jesus or something. Bruce himself is not at the party, as he decided to live as a crippled shot-in for years. Living the dream, my dude. See, quarantining yourself is not so hard. All you need to do is lose all your loved ones and your will to live. I'm already there. We meet Selina Kyle, aka Catwoman, who is never once called that in a movie, but I'm still going to, because screw you, I make my own damn rules. Miss Kyle then steals some pearls that belong to Bruce Wayne's mummy. Having dropped this little bit of blood into the shark tank, Catwoman caused Brucey Boy to relapse into crime fighting like a cocaine addict. And Alfred has to tell his entire life story for some reason. You're doing this so you don't have to unblock the toilets in the guest bathroom, am I right? And I'm still being paid overtime, Master Bruce. It is revealed that Selina Kyle wasn't after any material goods, but after Wayne's fingerprints, because they have some sort of special security clearance. As every billionaire does, so that he is being spared once the mass microchipping starts. A small war breaks out when Catwoman double-crosses another criminal who double-crossed her. Ha! You didn't uncover my double crossing. I never intended to trick you. Who looks like an idiot now? Gordon and a young prodigy of his named Officer Blake battle in the alley, avoiding gunshots and sniper attacks. Hey, did you remember to bring the grenade launcher for our deal later? Yeah, I did, but this all seems kind of excessive. Nonsense! When I still worked for the Joker, we unleashed an army of genetically modified pigeons with machine guns mounted on their heads when we were ordering pizza. This is nothing. A gas explosion in the sewers forces Gordon's men to stay above the street while the commissioner himself is being kidnapped and brought before Bane in his hideout, who I assume is building his own underground amusement park. The Joker would? The Joker would do that. He would invest hundreds of hours and manpower to have his own sewer roller coaster. But no, we need to have Immortan Joe's twin brother. I want the Joker back is what I'm saying. James Gordon escapes by jumping into the poo-infested water and is later found by Officer Blake. How? Did they train him as their sniffing dog replacement in case they do have to make budget cuts to the police someday? Speaking of budget cuts, Bruce Wayne finds out that his charity projects have been put on ice as there are no profits coming in because he left. Yes, because as we all know, money is made at the top and not by the workers.
I need an appointment at the hospital for my leg.
How do you think the human body works? Do you think you can just walk up to the doctor, he puts a cream on your leg and you are cured like it's fucking Theme Hospital? Also, you haven't even treated your leg in nearly a decade? That's just dumb. I mean, I understand you are depressed and all that, but you must have had at least the wish to be able to stand up in the morning all by yourself without bothering Alfred. Speaking of which, very responsible behavior, old man. Seriously, the butler might be the most fucked up person in all of Gotham. All the time Christian Bale literally went from muscle man to fat man is just canon in the Nolan Batman universe. Bruce visits Gordon in the hospital, and I have a hard time listening because I can only think of this meme right now. Anyway, Gordon tells him to become Batman again as there is evil afoot. Bruce Man goes to a mask ball for the rich and famous with his car that could buy you a house, in order to think. He's just like you and me. He meets Selina Kyle again and she explains she became a criminal because she made a mistake once, and since we live in the age of surveillance and data collection, her crime record made it impossible for her to lead a normal life. Which is why she is trying to find a way to erase her past somehow. But she has no problems with stealing, she says, as long as it is from the rich. And we get a short glimpse into one of the main focuses of the movie: global wealth inequality. Later. Catwoman tells soon-to-be Batman again that this can't go on for much longer and that a storm is coming. Later, we learn that Bruce made the very unwise decision to put all his money into a project for the discovery of fusion energy that, if successful, could provide enough energy for the entire world and solve most of humanity's problems. Luckily, Wayne Enterprises is not broke yet, as a woman named Miranda had shown interest in his project and invested in it. After putting an exoskeleton on himself, our hero is ready to fight again, but he doesn't yet. Now, I am not someone who complains when there is a lot of dialogue. In fact, I prefer a tense conversation over any brainless action brawl any day. But even I noticed how in the first half of this film there's almost nothing interesting going on. And it's not like the way it has been put together had to be this way. There would have been much more preferable ways to set up the things that needed to be set up for later. Alfred tells us another story again, this time not completely out of nowhere. Bane's origin story to be precise, and how he was trained by Ra's al Ghul. And I'm totally sure this won't be important later. Because this movie came out in 2012 and the memories of the financial crisis are still very fresh, we feel all political and junk, and we see Bane attacking the Gotham stock market. Can I see that again? Smells like Red Dawn. Bane and his goons start uploading a virus, leading to the collapse of the financial system. From all the things unnecessary, this was unnecessary the most. When you want the stock market to crash, all you have to do is wait.
Or, buy them GameStop stonks.
And finally, after many years gone, the Bad Meister is back for some action. But he fails to stop the virus from being uploaded. He escapes with his newest vehicle provided by Lucius Fox, called the Bat. Which is a dumb name and I hate it. Batwing is just fine, what the hell. Later, Batman saves Catwoman's life and asks her who she sold his fingerprints to. She tells him a man named Daggett bought them, who happens to be working together with Bane and is in the process of buying Wayne Enterprises from under Bruce's broke ass. But that doesn't matter anyway, as Bane gets rid of him. Blake, while is working together with Batman now to find out what's going on. Oh yeah, and he found out who Bruce Wayne really is. Because his instinct told him when he looked into his eyes. I can see in your eyes that you bought no shoes on the December 5th, 12 years ago, that your middle name is Wilfred, and that you used cat food for your lasagna once. Instinct! It can do whatever you want! I would have preferred it if Blake used by sheer coincidence the right keys on the piano to open up Batman's cave. This is really the epitome of laziness. Oh yeah, he just knows. I don't know. One night our broke billionaire, still living in his mansion, don't ask me how that works, has a little romance with Miranda. A thank you shagging for trying to save his company, I guess. Even more later, Batman is led by Catwoman into a trap, saying it was the only way to keep herself safe. What follows is unfiltered epicness for 5 minutes straight. Just two extreme muscle dudes having a fist fight. No movie music, just the sounds of fists smashing on human flesh. Also memes. To be perfectly honest, the action in this film is pretty great. And if it was just for the action, well, it would be okay. Still an unnecessary movie and pretty disappointing compared to The Dark Knight, but okay. No, my problems with this film are of a completely different nature, which I will explain later. Unfortunately, Batman is not able to win, given that he has not trained his body one bit for years, a fact pointed out by Bane himself. You have neglected leg day. And so Batman's back is broken, a little nod to the comic book fans, immobilizing him once again. But Bane is the type of villain who doesn't just want to break the hero physically, but also his spirit. He decides to lock him up in the very same prison he was born in. A hole in the ground in the middle of nowhere. So this is obviously against all human rights standards, but how does it work practically? Is there like a garbage truck with leftover food coming every week, using the hole as a giant trash bin? Bane sets up a television screen, saying he will let Batman watch as he destroys Gotham, and only once the last bit of suffering is squeezed out of him, then he will have his permission to die.
Only after extracting the last exquisite ounce of agony, only when he had them literally begging for death, would he finally kill them.
Oh, I didn't know this was such a bureaucratic process. I think I left my ID home, but I have a receipt for a chewing dog toy. Is that enough? Can I die now? There is one way out, and it's pretty obvious. One just has to climb out of the hole, but that is much more difficult said than done, as the climbing is hard enough, but near the end there is a gap one has to jump over. Back in Gotham, a football game is about to start, which it can only officially do once the national anthem has been played. Yeah, I get it. Patriotism is very important to you guys over the big pond, but every time I see this kind of stuff in movies, it comes across to me like self-important masturbation in front of the mirror. Can I please watch my movie without you telling yourself how fucking great you are? It was mentioned in an earlier scene with Blake that a lot of young men had disappeared. Well, we discover that they went to Bane to get work, using Daggett's resources to plant bombs under the city, which he now lets explode all simultaneously, ripping Gotham to pieces. The shit of all the animals in the zoo then hits the fan as Bane interrupts America's favorite pastime by ripping open a huge hole in the field and killing the mayor. And he hasn't even started yet. It was all a prelude to the main event. Bane stole Bruce Wayne's fusion reactor, which he plans to use as a nuclear bomb. And if anyone tries to enter Gotham from the outside, it goes boom. The United States government has no problem with that. Oh no, big surprise. The citizens of Gotham gather around to hear Bane make a speech. He reveals to everyone the truth about Harvey Dent's passing by reading the confession letter Gordon had written, which they all believe without any hesitation or skepticism. He doesn't even hold a piece of paper into the camera showing that the handwriting is definitely Gordon's or that it has any official Gotham Police Department stamp on it. What's important, however, is that Harvey Dent's insanity, his murders and the cover-up by Gordon and Batman are revealed to the public, that the idol they have all been told to hold in highest regard is a madman. Bane then releases all of the imprisoned mobsters and other criminals who got there because of the former district attorney's doing, and they spontaneously decide to join up with the terrorist agitator. Because all criminals are exactly the same? I don't know, it's probably the same logic they used in Batman Arkham Origins, where a snowstorm hits and the city imposes a curfew, thereby making everyone who is still outside a ruthless criminal who will not hesitate to murder you. Batman is beating up homeless people in that game. The villain then cranks it up to 11, saying everyone in office has to resign, because the rich only get richer while the poor only get poorer, and the entire system is basically corrupt. He then cuts off Gotham from the rest of the world, turning it into a small autocratic state. And it's a metaphor for Occupy Wall Street. Well, at least the version of it that conservatives created in their minds. But in this day and age, it would be more akin to Antifa. Also, the version that only resides in their fantasy. And here is the reason why I wanted to review this movie in the first place. Because it was decided that what was only part of the subtext in previous films shall now become overt. Conservative politics. Batman had always a level of conservative messaging in it, and usually it's so subtle that you can easily ignore it, but not in this film. When Batman talks about the criminals, he always talked about the scum, and his tactics to deal with the issue of crime has always been that of fear and intimidation, i.e. conservative politics for everything. Beat it with a baseball bat until it stops moving. When I reviewed the Atlas Shrugged movie some years ago, I expected that I would eventually attract some people who are fans of this lady for some reason. And I was right, I got a decent amount of downvotes on that video, which makes me happy because fuck them. One particular individual stood out, however, who sent me over 22 different links to various videos, among them PragerU, some crazy dude claiming Hollywood has been infiltrated by communists, guys who claim the military interventions of the US in recent decades were totally a good idea and not failures, and so much worse. Just an avalanche of bullshit. And after reading and watching a while, I had the same thought I had when I once watched a documentary about North Korea. How much can the human mind be warped? That person, however, did not realize that when you just post only links under a video and nothing else, your messages are seen as spam and get blocked. And I only saw them by coincidence. But I'm glad I did because it gave me a good laugh. But the point is, the person did achieve one thing. It got me thinking, maybe I was a bit too polemic. And then I did a little bit research, educated myself, read a lot of things, and I came to the conclusion that I wasn't even nearly polemic enough.
I didn't learn anything. I was right all along.
You know what reinforced my opinion most of all? The global corona pandemic of 2020, when essentially reality itself decided to showcase why unfettered capitalism is bad. When countless people lost their jobs because workers in the US don't have the same rights as we do over here. And even those have been slowly eroded over time thanks to the global neoliberal scourge. The same "the free market is untouchable" dickheads showed themselves to be fully willing to sacrifice people by the hundreds of thousands, and most of them still decided to give the Orange Menace 4 more years. Sorry, I'm not sorry, but your ideas don't deserve any respect. I so vividly remember the line I said in my Atlas Shrugged review. A disease doesn't care if you are rich or poor. Oh boy, how right I was. Their whole thinking can really be described like this. Intellectual Ben Shapiro here.
That all of the water levels around the world rise by let's say 5 feet over the next 100 years, say 10 feet by the next 100 years, and it puts all the low-lying areas on the coast underwater, right? Which, let's say all of that happens. You think that people aren't going to just sell their homes and move?
Just one small problem. Sell their houses to who, Ben? Fucking Aquaman!
And they believe in this nonsense because they are so brainwashed by their own ideology that they can't but see the world in terms of commodities and capital. Which is why I became more left in recent years. More than I already was. Not the left pushed me left, but the right did. I am still somewhat skeptical about a lot of their claims, and sometimes I feel that they see a lot of things a bit too simple, and they definitely need to work on their branding and planning. But fuck me, with the current system I definitely know where we are going. I have nothing to lose, bro. And with the knowledge I have gained over the years, rewatching this film is so freaking frustrating. It starts out rather harmless by playing the annoying both sides-ism game at the Mask Ball. Bruce Wayne says the whole event is just a pretentious gathering of elites who don't really care, followed up by Miranda saying, "But I do care." Catwoman says this inequality, this level of wealth disparity is not sustainable, followed up by Bruce saying, "Well, that doesn't justify stealing." And this logic and these arguments, used by conservatives and liberals alike, misses the point. These type of statements can only be made by people who just don't question the system itself, which is basically where conservative thinking originates from, a tunnel vision of the world. There are drugs, and drugs make you sick. We need to ban all drugs. There are terrorists in other countries. Invade we must. There are illegal immigrants coming to our country. We build a wall. And it's from that point on, it's only about justifying that opinion. Not to realize that all of these policies either have failed already or are most definitely going to fail. Not asking why people take drugs, why people enter a country illegally, why women have abortions, why the rate of gun deaths is so high in the US, or why people do crime. A lot of which is the direct result of conservative politics. The problem with the charity event is not its insincerity. It maybe is, it maybe is not. Lots of rich folks are generally trying to help, and others use it as a form of PR. The problem with it is that the rich could contribute way more than what they do, but it's up to them what they contribute, and it's not democratically decided for what it's being used for. Maybe kids in the third world do want a bigger school library, or maybe they want a school boss. It's the king and peasant principle. Yes, throughout history there have been many rulers who genuinely cared about their subjects. But that doesn't change the fact that the power imbalance itself is what is wrong. Catwoman stealing is not justified. But again, that is missing the point. The point is, she steals because out of necessity. And in all seriousness, is it really so bad that someone is taking something from someone who is drowning in wealth and wouldn't have otherwise even noticed if he wasn't there in the room? The problem with capitalism is not greed, but that it is designed in such a way that it can only encourage greed. All of the most negative aspects of humanity, really. The problem is that all the wealth that is being created is mostly always going to those who don't need it. Poverty is actually a theme in the Batman universe, and in this trilogy too. We learn in Batman Begins that there was an economic crisis.
You care about justice? Look beyond your own pain, Bruce. This city is rotting. They talk about the Depression as if it's history, and it's not. Things are worse than ever down here.
And after many decades, Gotham is still in the dumps. But here is the thing. Poverty is only ever mentioned, but it's never addressed. What I mean is this. In Batman, poverty is seen as the cause of crime. But the causes of poverty are never addressed. Let's take the Arkham video game series for example. We see in Arkham Origins that the steel mill is up and running. In later games, the place is completely decaying. So in between that, something has happened, but we are never told what exactly. Did the company outsource all the jobs to some place cheaper? Was there an economic crisis? If so, what was the cause of it? It's never addressed, but these things are kind of important if you want to talk about crime and poverty and whatnot. So one might actually start to get the idea that crime, at least most crime, could be, the result of people not waking up in the morning deciding, hey, I should break the law. I need some excitement in my life. And what are 3, 4, heck, even 5 years in prison anyway, but the result of people having no other options. But for some reason there is a huge cognitive dissonance going on in the Batman universe, one that has annoyed me for years. On the one hand, you are being shown that Gotham is a place that has serious social issues going on. On the other, you have a Batman who decides that all that criminals need is a good beating. And so it goes. Batman goes out, beats up the bad guys, throws them into prison or Arkham, and everything goes on and on without any significant change. And how does the conservative mind react to this reality?
What about escalation?
Escalation.
We start carrying semi-automatics, they buy automatics. We start wearing Kevlar, they buy armor-piercing rounds.
No! This is literally the opposite of what needs to happen. If you are doing the same thing over and over again and expect different results, you know what you do? You make the Joker right. Always bigger guns, more police, more force, more Batman can't be the answer. You need to ask yourself what it exactly is that you are doing wrong. In the comics, I can kind of forgive this perspective since Gotham is overrun with meta-humans and the name Gotham City, goddamn city, is not an accident. It's often implied or even outright stated in the comics that Gotham is a cursed city, that the city is conscious and has an evil living in it, like for example Silent Hill does. For that reason Martha and Thomas Wayne had to die because they dared to oppose that evil. And it is the reason for all the supervillains and the unnatural high number of psychopaths, because they act as an antibody against Batman's presence. Therefore, his existence and his views are better justified. Because Gotham City really is a place where people wake up in the morning having an evil curse upon them, deciding that they need to go on a rampage. And even then, comic book writers do more interesting things with his values, as more often than not, Batman becomes an outright fascist dictator, as this is the natural outcome of his views. Yes, I'm sorry, dear conservatives, but it's the truth. If the only options you ever have are bigger guns and harder methods while not addressing the actual causes of the problems, then yes, your police force eventually is going to look like something straight out of a dystopic science fiction novel. And this is why this final movie fails, because it's supposed to take place in the real world. Next up is the subject of violence. After Bane has taken over the city, people are raiding the halls of wealth, and we are supposed to find this very terrible. I let you in on a little secret. Not all violence is equal. When the left, when Antifa, when Black Lives Matter riot. And you can think of that whatever you want. But it's always a response to legitimate grievances. We live in a world where robots can perform surgery, where enough food is being produced to feed every person in the world, yet still all we see is that the rich get richer. When a street protester burns down a limousine of a billionaire, what does it really matter? No, seriously now. The person can just buy 12 new ones. When the police kill black people who live in poverty, is the anger that goes out of hand not absolutely understandable in your eyes? These things are not going on since yesterday or last year. They are going on for generations and they are not getting fixed. What are they supposed to do? No, seriously, I demand an answer. When the oh so highly praised peaceful protest that everyone wants, except when they don't, fails, and it fails over and over again, what are they supposed to do? Sit tight and wait until prosperity miraculously starts trickling down from one day to another, laws suddenly start to hold people accountable, which it all has never done before, so why should it in the future? What else is there? Peaceful protest and the rule of law are only so long useful when they actually have an effect. I would absolutely, and I think it's not far-fetched when I say this, most people would prefer the democratic process over any violence. But the thing is, are we supposed to endlessly suffer until it might in 100 years gets its act together? These are left-wing causes. Justice. Every person deserves to have something to eat, a place to live, healthcare, etc., etc., etc. Meanwhile, on the right, when they riot, it's about bullshit. And it really angers me that when the media, and that not only includes movies but also the news, equates these things in some way, that they somehow pretend that a protester throwing a bottle because the police killed an innocent person, or that a mother can't afford insulin for her little child, or that the fucking bankers have foreclosed 100 million homes again, or that the rich have all their fucking money in tax havens, that these things are in any way equivalent to some fascist douchebag who builds his entire worldview around frog memes. Hey, remember that kid Batman gave his batarang to in the first movie? Did you think he pulled himself up by his bootstraps? How very fittingly, by the way, that conservative ideology is asking something of you that is literally impossible. Or, rather, did he grow up to become one of the young men working for Bane in his tunnels? Because there is, no work for them, no money, no options. Also, isn't it a bit strange that after murder and bombing, Bane is still followed by all of Gotham with one little speech? Is he a great manipulator? Or rather, was all of that bubbling under the surface long before, and everyone just waited for someone to finally say it? I let you decide. Let's get this over with quick. Gordon and Blake try to get out of the city, but get captured and brought before a kangaroo trial with Jonathan Crane, aka the Scarecrow, as the judge. Oh man, I wished Heath Ledger had lived. Just imagining him sitting in that chair instead of the straw man would have improved this movie massively for me. Bruce then gets a completely pointless visit by Ra's al Ghul's ghost. I mean, this is the DC universe, but having ghosts show up out of nowhere in a movie series supposedly to take place in our real world, and at this point is just... I really believe Nolan was sitting at his desk, rolling his pen around back and forth, and said to himself, "Oh, who really gives a shit?" He then escapes, using his strength and willpower. Now he needs to hurry before Gotham gets blown up. Or you get around 1,000 gas canisters to carefully draw a bat symbol on the Gotham Bridge to announce your return. "Mommy, I'm cold and starving. Is the Batman going to save us?" "Yes, sweetie, but not without a cool entrance." And we are getting close to the finale, as the forces of Batman and Bane have assembled. On the one side, criminals and terrorists, representing chaos. On the other, the police, representing order and justice. The police. Oh, this aged so fucking bad. They start to fight with their fists in the street, even though Bane's men have guns. Lots of them, in fact. We get one last surprise. Miranda is revealed to be the daughter of Ra's al Ghul and wanted to avenge her father and complete his mission of destroying Gotham.
But we totally had sex.
Bane works for her because he and her lived together in the prison hole for a long time. "I feel an intense love for the man who put me through hell, and I will make it my life's purpose to make his vision a reality." My character makes sense. She is also the only other person, aside from Batman, who ever managed to escape the hole in the ground. Now, a lot of people have complained about this, asking, when a child can do this, why can't adult people? And I can see their point, but maybe all the adults were just malnourished and she wasn't, so she had enough energy for the jump. What I want to know is, why in the Flying Dutchman are you all trying to leave the official way? You have iron bars and there are no guards around. Build yourself an alternative staircase or use them as shovels. Then Catwoman shows up, saving Batman's life. Yeah, can we discuss why Batman has guns on his motorcycle? Miranda, whose name is really Talia, in case that wasn't obvious, is stopped, giving us the worst, and I mean the worst, death scene of all time.
No way. This bomb will be stopped. Prepare yourself. My father's work is done.
This movie had $250 million at its disposal. And this wasn't a grandiose scene, like the Joker blowing up an entire real hospital, something you can't repeat again. No, this was just her sitting in a truck, dying. You can't tell me that that would have gone over budget. And if it had done that, I, as a director, would have rather taken out my own phone and did it again with that, and regardless, I would have used that low-res, shitty footage instead of this. This one scene proves to me, without a shadow of a doubt, that everyone near the end was just tired and wanted to go home. Nay, I go even further. I say Nolan didn't want to make this movie in the first place. I believe Nolan was pressured by others to milk the franchise a little bit more, so that's why his head wasn't in the game all that much. And, I mean, this makes sense, right? Think about it, the previous film was so perfect. It had everything that I like about a movie. A beginning, a middle, an end. Just why? Why would you do that? Why are we on this earth? Only to suffer? The fusion reactor has been set on self-destruct and there's no time to get it out of the city and escape at the same time, so Batman takes it and sacrifices his own life. They build him a statue and Alfred is all sad, until it is revealed in the final scene that he survived somehow. Because why end the movie with him just smiling into the camera and giving us some ambiguity? Oh, and Catwoman is also there. They are a thing now. Even though Talia and Bruce had a more believable relationship. All they ever did was piss off each other.
That's marriage.
Fair point. I hate this movie so much. It is filled to the brim with what I like to call the vilification of the one who is right. You know, say like Killmonger, who is more or less correct about everything, but they have to make him tyrannical or hypocritical or any other number of things in some ways, so that the audience can better disagree with him. Even though anyone should be smart enough to realize that his person has, or rather should have, no impact on the content of his views and what he is saying. This film takes the cake in bringing up all these problems and then literally have nothing to say about them. Or worse, it's the Ben Shapiro school of thought. You are a poor black kid in a neighborhood overrun with drugs and gangs? Then don't pick up a gun! Just say no! It's that easy! Seriously, how does anyone take this imbecile seriously? I find it aggravating when a story takes a real issue like, say, abuses by a corporation to people in a third world country, and it's the focal point of your story, and you yourself point out what is happening is unjust and cruel, but then you make a complete turn and say, but violence is not right either. Some movies, like the aforementioned Black Panther, at least propose that less radical solutions are possible, which is a liberal notion, but one that I can at least respect. Since that message shows that the people who made it are aware that something has to change. The thing with the fusion reactor also brings up something interesting and problematic. The view that we lack the right technology. This is wrong, of course, because it again presupposes that the current system we have is flawless. If Wayne Enterprises was successful with the experiment, it would certainly do a lot of good, but just with everything. Not everyone will have equal access to it. It means nothing if you have, say, a pill that can turn the entire ocean into drinkable water without environmental consequences when the corporation that owns the patents wants to make profit and thus puts up fences around the shores of every continent. It's not a technological problem. It never was. If humanity had used the same amount of resources for the common good as it did for World War I and II, poverty would have been a thing of the past a long time ago. It's an issue of distribution inherent to the capitalist system, and scientific progress means nothing if it is not reaching everyone. Conservatives believe, at least that's the best case scenario, often it's just plain obvious that they don't care about human suffering, but in the best case scenario, they believe that there is a greater good to the system we are living under. You will see this in conservative thinking a shit ton of times, and in this film it's no exception. The belief that if we just keep going, it will turn out fine. Never mind that by the end Gotham is still poor as fuck. Never mind that after the death of the mayor, there isn't a fresh new face indicating that things are going to fundamentally change now. Batman has saved the city, but he hasn't changed anything. He has merely brought back the status quo that led up to this moment in the first place. He is the Joe Biden of superheroes. What is it exactly that Batman has to offer? Even in The Dark Knight, he felt the need to argue with the crazy monstrous terrorist, saying that he was wrong. But what does he want now? The fact that he has no argument against Bane, but stands on the side of the old order just because it's the old order, makes him come across as a fascist super cop, a tool. And I don't want one of my favorite superheroes to be that. Let's compare The Dark Knight with this one for a moment. The previous one was so much more intelligent with what it was saying. Joker represented terrorism, but what the film was smart about was to show that all Joker really wanted was to create fear and use that fear to bring people to his level, just like terrorists do in the real world. In that tale, Batman uses a highly advanced surveillance computer to capture the Joker. Afterwards, he destroys it when the job is done. In our real world, surveillance and the subsequent war on terror never really came to an end. Right there is material for a sequel that touches upon the modern zeitgeist. Why are we supposed to root for Batman in this? We are shown the elites to be corrupt and the system unfair and dysfunctional. Heck, it was built on a lie, but it has to continue cause... My point is, if you believe in a greater good, but the suffering never ends, then there is no greater good. There is only suffering.
Yes, obviously, Bane is a tyrant, so naturally Batman is correct by default. But you would hope that by the end of all of this, something better would come into being. Also, I hope I don't have to explain to you that in the real world, left-wing groups aren't part of a giant conspiracy led by nefarious puppeteers. Unless you are one of those types. In which case, I must inform you, I already received my paycheck from the Jewish cabal and its CEO George Soros, so nothing you can do.
This movie offends me. It tries to be oh so very topical for the time it came out, but it takes place in conservative fantasy land, where all their bad ideas come from. Which ultimately, when put into practice, always have gigantic harmful consequences for all people on a global scale. Hey, all you girls out there with a criminal record who can't get a job, just marry a billionaire, lol! And to all of your poors and those left behind, don't rise up, just continue to take all the shit that comes your way. And then when Christmas and Easter fall on the same day, your problems will go away. And to top it all off, you take the one group of people at that time who do the one thing nobody else does, which is to point out exactly what the real problems are in the world and make them your main antagonists. What the fuck? But as long as we have billionaires like Bruce Wayne who care, it's going to be okay. Those prisoners in that hellhole are still stuck there.